Chosen one. Heaven has watched you in silence for so long. Every moment you stood trembling between surrender and collapse. The heavens leaned in closer. The hosts of angels have seen your private battles, the ones no one else could see. They saw the nights you lay awake, wondering if your purpose had expired. And yet, tonight, something shifted, something eternal. Heaven was shocked, not because you failed, but because you finally did it. You finally obeyed. You finally stepped out of fear and into destiny. Listen carefully now. This moment is not coincidence. This is divine intervention. Heaven pressed pause on eternity to witness what you just did. You chose light over darkness, obedience over delay, purpose over comfort. And the sound that followed in heaven was not quiet, it was worship. The echo of your decision traveled like a thunderclap through the courts of glory. You have been through storms that would have drowned others. You have carried burdens too heavy for one soul to hold. But what you did, yes, what you just did has shifted something cosmic. Angels who once guarded you in silence are now rejoicing. The heavens are singing your name, not in pride, but in awe that you chose truth over compromise. There were moments when the darkness tried to convince you that nothing would change, that obedience was useless. But look around you now. Feel the atmosphere. It's different, isn't it? That's because the moment you decided to rise, heaven responded. The Father whispered, "Finally." The tears you cried were not wasted. They became seeds that watered your own awakening. You didn't even realize how close you were to breaking. Every disappointment was secretly positioning you for this revelation. The enemy thought he had you cornered in despair, but the very pressure he used to crush you has birthed your spiritual diamond. You've stepped into something that cannot be undone. Chosen one. You must understand this. Obedience is not a quiet act. It is warfare. Every time you say yes to God, darkness loses territory. Every time you surrender, the kingdom of light expands. And tonight, your yes has changed heaven's timeline concerning you. The same angels who once stood by watching now move at divine command on your behalf. There are rewards waiting for you that no one else could claim because no one else bore your pain. You are not a mistake. You are not forgotten. You are the evidence that grace can resurrect what seemed lost. Heaven watched you stand when everything screamed, "Fall." That's why this is holy ground. You are standing in the aftermath of your obedience. Do not let your mind wander back to the past. You cannot rebuild what heaven has already dismantled. The season of waiting is shifting into a season of release. You don't have to chase anything. Heaven is now chasing you with blessings attached to your obedience. The Spirit whispers again, "This is not the end. This is the unveiling." The world may not understand what just happened inside your spirit, but eternity knows. You've crossed a line that hell cannot erase. You've been marked, sealed, as one who belongs wholly to the light, and heaven is still echoing with the sound of that one decision. Pause and breathe. Can you sense it? The stillness that is not empty but full. That is the weight of divine recognition. Heaven saw what no one else did. Every tear was noticed. Every silence recorded. Every act of surrender remembered. And now the throne of grace tilts in your direction. You are not the same. You are now a living prophecy. What you carry will awaken others. The light within you is about to spill over into places that have long been dark. Every chain that once held you has melted in the fire of your obedience. What happened tonight will echo through generations. Do not hide this moment. Declarate. Let it be known that heaven still responds to faith. Let your life become a testimony that obedience is stronger than fear. You may not feel worthy, but the truth is this: you were chosen before you even took your first breath. And now, heaven is applauding because you finally believed it. As the apostle reminds us in his letter to the Romans, chapter 8, verse 31, if God is for us, who can be against us? So, chosen one, let this be your public declaration. Type 777 in the comments right now as a prophetic act that says, I choose my calling. If this word has stirred your spirit, like this message, share it so another warrior might awaken, and subscribe to remain connected to the stream of revelation flowing from heaven's heart. You were never meant to survive what you went through. At least, that's what the enemy believed. The battles that came for you were designed to end you, to silence the very sound of your purpose before it could ever find expression. Yet here you stand, breathing, scarred, but unbroken. Every wound you carry tells a story heaven refuses to erase. You became the proof that endurance itself is a form of worship. Chosen one, you fought battles that others never saw. You smiled when your soul was collapsing. And still, you spoke life into others, even when death whispered in your ear. There were days when the darkness pressed so heavily that you forgot what sunlight felt like. And still, you kept walking. You didn't see it then, but every small step was shaking the foundations of hell. Every sigh was a declaration of defiance against the enemy's plan. Heaven was not shocked by your pain, but it was moved by your persistence. Angels were dispatched not to remove the fire, but to stand beside you within it. You mistook their silence for absence. But heaven's silence was reverence. It was the holy stillness that accompanies a warrior being forged. While you asked, "Where is God?" heaven whispered, "Look closer. He's in the flame." End. There were nights when you wondered why you were chosen for such intensity, why the weight felt heavier for you than for others. The truth is simple and sacred. Greater battles are entrusted to greater callings. Your pain was never punishment. It was preparation. You were being trained in terrains where comfort could not go. You learned to recognize God, not by blessings, but by presence. And that is the kind of strength that terrifies the kingdom of darkness. The storms that tried to break you only revealed how deep your roots truly were. Every betrayal, every delay, every unanswered prayer shaped the foundation of a soul that now stands unshakable. You have walked through spiritual terrains most will never understand, and because of that, your faith has a fragrance only heaven can describe. Do you remember the times you cried, "I can't take this anymore"? Yet somehow, you did. You went to bed empty and woke up with just enough strength to keep breathing. That strength was not your own, it was grace, hidden in plain sight. What you called survival was actually divine endurance, and heaven took note of every moment you refused to quit. The battle you were never supposed to survive became the very thing that revealed who you truly are. You thought it was about endurance, but it was about identity. You were never fragile. You were fire wrapped in flesh. You carry within you the unyielding light of one who has seen the face of despair and still chosen to worship. Look back for a moment. Can you see it now? Every closed door, every heartbreak, every wilderness, it all led you here. You may not have realized it, but each valley carved out room for glory. You have been refined in the crucible of divine intention, And now, what remains of you is indestructible faith. As the prophet Elijah spoke, as recorded in the first book of Kings, chapter 19, verse 12, after the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in it. Then came a gentle whisper, that whisper that was him, the same gentle voice that steadied you when the world was shaking, the same whisper that said, "Don't give up yet." That whisper became your compass through the storms. You didn't survive because you were strong, you survived because you listened, and now that voice grows clearer. It no longer speaks only in crisis, but in calling. It invites you to rise, to speak, to walk as one who has seen the face of fire and found grace in its center. That voice calls you not just to live, but to lead. The scars on your spirit are not signs of failure, but of formation. They are the evidence that faith was forged within you. Every wound that once bled despair now shines with revelation. You are a survivor. Yes, but even more, you are a messenger of resilience. Do not hide the ashes of your battle. They are your anointing oil. Through your story, others will find courage. Through your honesty, others will find healing. You carry the sound of deliverance within you. And heaven intends to use your testimony as a key that unlocks freedom for many. So when heaven looked down and saw you still standing, still believing, still holding on to faith despite the fire, it was not shocked by your victory, but deeply moved by your trust. You have become a testament that endurance is holy, that surviving is sacred, that sometimes the greatest act of faith is simply refusing to fall apart. You remember the weight of the chains, don't you? Those invisible links that clung to your soul: fear, shame, addiction, comparison, rejection. They disguise themselves as habits, as relationships, as comfort zones, but they were never meant to stay. The enemy forged them carefully, hoping you'd confuse captivity with identity. Yet something inside you began to tremble, to wake, to question why the prison felt so small for a spirit that carried eternity. Every time you tried to move forward, those chains whispered, "You'll never change." They told you your past was final, your failure permanent. But heaven knew otherwise. Heaven knew that inside you was a sound powerful enough to shatter iron. And when you finally dared to believe that God had not abandoned you, that sound, your faith, echoed across eternity. The shackles that once defined you began to rust in the presence of grace. Chosen one. You did not break free by strength. You broke free by surrender. You stopped fighting for control and started yielding to divine command. You laid your fears before the throne. And heaven responded. Freedom was not found in striving, it was found in trust. You let go of what hurt you. And that was the act that terrified hell. The darkness that once called your name no longer recognizes your voice. You've changed frequencies. You now speak the language of light. Every time you choose forgiveness over bitterness, purity over compromise, obedience over pride, another link falls away. You're not who you were yesterday, and that's proof that grace works. The world doesn't see the weight of what you carried, but heaven does. Angels, remember how hard it was for you to let go. They watched as you wept, shaking under the pain of release. But still, you chose freedom, what others call moving on. Heaven calls resurrection. There were moments when you thought the pain would kill you, but it wasn't death, It was deliverance. The fire that burned away your chains didn't come to destroy you. It came to purify you. Every tear that fell became holy water on the ground of your new beginning. And now, chosen one, you stand lighter, clearer, cleaner in spirit. The weight you once thought was permanent has vanished. The spaces that pain once occupied are now filled with peace. The voices that haunted you have gone silent because heaven has replaced their echo with a new song, your song. We are reminded through the writings of David in the book of Psalms, chapter 107, verse 14. He brought them out of darkness and the shadow of death and broke away their chains. You have lived that verse. You didn't just read it, you became it. Every chain that tried to claim you now lies broken behind you. Every label, every accusation, every fear that once defined you has lost its grip. You are not bound anymore. You are free completely, irrevocably free. So what now? Freedom isn't the end of your story, it's the beginning. The same power that broke your chains now calls you to break the chains of others. Your deliverance was never meant to be private. It's a weapon, a testimony, a light. Tell your story boldly. Let others know that the God who set you free still moves today. You don't have to prove anything anymore. The evidence of your transformation speaks for itself. The peace you now carry is louder than any explanation. You have become the embodiment of divine mercy. And wherever you walk, freedom follows. There will be voices that try to remind you of your past. Ignore them. They speak from tombs you no longer inhabit. You are a new creation. And heaven has written your name in a new chapter. The memory of chains will always exist, but their power over you is gone. You have been rewritten by grace itself. And now, as a prophetic act of agreement, type "chains fall" in the comments. Let those 2 words become your public declaration that the cycle is broken. Every time someone reads it, they'll feel the tremor of freedom you've released into the atmosphere. You are not who you were. The story has changed. And heaven is watching it unfold with awe. There was a time when you almost gave up, when the weight of silence pressed against your chest, and you wondered if heaven had gone deaf to your prayers. You whispered, "God, where are you?" But the only sound that came back was your own echo. It was in that silence, though, that something sacred was happening, something no one could see. A voice was forming inside of you, gentle at first, then louder, clearer, more determined. It was the voice that would not let you quit. Chosen one. You know that voice. It's the one that spoke in your lowest moment and said, "Get up." The one that reminded you of promises you had forgotten, of dreams you thought had died. The voice that spoke when you were too weak to pray, too numb to cry. It didn't come with thunder or lightning. It came as a whisper, steady, patient, undeniable. It wasn't an external voice from the clouds, but an internal one, carved by divine intimacy. Heaven had planted it there long before you ever knew you would need it. You see, the greatest miracles don't always appear in flashes of glory. Sometimes they show up in whispers of persistence. You thought it was your own thought, saying, "Try again." But it was him. You thought it was coincidence when you found just enough courage to stand up one more time. But it was heaven breathing life back into you. Every time you chose to believe when everything inside you screamed, "Quit," that was the sound of resurrection. There's a mystery here. one that few understand. God often hides his loudest answers inside the smallest moments. While the world seeks signs in the sky, he speaks in stillness. While others search for proof, you learned to trust a whisper. And that whisper has saved you more times than you can count. It has pulled you back from the edge, redirected your path, and ignited your heart when the flame of faith nearly went out. That's why heaven calls you resilient, because you didn't need a crowd to cheer for you. You needed only the faint reminder that God was still speaking. You didn't need applause. You needed awareness. The awareness that even in the silence, you were seen. That voice within the divine echo was proof that he had never left. There were seasons when his silence felt cruel. You begged for clarity, for a sign, for something you could hold on to. But God was teaching you to listen differently. He wasn't withholding his voice. He was strengthening your hearing. In the stillness, you discovered something rare, a relationship not built on noise, but on knowing. You began to recognize his presence even when he said nothing, when the storms raged, when doors slammed shut, when people walked away. That voice was still there. It didn't change tone. It didn't grow bitter. It simply said, "Keep going." And somehow, you did. You kept walking, kept praying, kept believing. Every step you took in silence was a sermon. Every tear you wiped away without giving up was worship. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah. Chapter 33, verse 3, "Call to me, and I will answer you, and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know." You called, chosen one, even when your voice shook, and though the world couldn't hear the answer, heaven heard your persistence. God's response wasn't always what you expected. It was better. He didn't remove the mountain. He made your legs strong enough to climb it. He didn't silence your enemies. He trained you to find peace in their noise. He didn't make life easier. He made you unstoppable. That voice inside of you, the one that refused to let you die in discouragement, wasn't imagination. It was destiny. It was God reminding you that your story wasn't over. That whisper became your anchor in chaos. It taught you that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it simply says, "Not yet." You have learned the art of holy endurance. You know now that the voice of God isn't always a shout from heaven, but often a quiet conviction in your heart. And because of that, you are no longer tossed around by circumstance. You are rooted. You stand firm. Not because everything makes sense, but because you have learned the secret. When you listen closely, heaven always speaks. So, even now, as new challenges rise, as uncertainty looms, don't fear the silence. It's not a void, it's a visitation. The same God who spoke galaxies into being is the same God whispering strength into your spirit right now. He hasn't gone quiet. He's drawing closer. The silence that once scared you has become sacred space. And within it, you are being rebuilt. When you walk into tomorrow, remember this moment. Remember the sound that would not let you quit. It was never just your own resilience. It was heaven's reminder that your purpose is louder than your pain. You are still standing because the voice of destiny kept speaking, and it will keep speaking until every promise written over you is fulfilled. There were moments when the earth mocked you, when people laughed behind closed doors, calling you naive for believing in unseen promises. They called your faith foolish, your hope unrealistic, your prayers too dramatic. Yet, What they didn't understand is that heaven was watching. Every time they dismissed you, angels took note. Every time you were belittled for your belief, heaven leaned closer. Because mockery on earth often precedes recognition in heaven. Chosen one, your story has always been misunderstood because it wasn't meant to fit within the logic of man. You walk by divine rhythm, not by the rhythm of applause. When the world pointed and whispered, heaven smiled quietly. For your endurance under ridicule became incense before the throne. You didn't need to defend yourself. Your obedience became its own language, its own defense. It is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 54, verse 17. No weapon that is formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord. You see, the laughter of those who mocked you was never final. Heaven allowed it not to humiliate you, but to position you, like Joseph in the pit, like David in exile. You were being refined where no one was watching. The mockery was only the noise that covered your transformation. You have always been a seed planted in mystery. Seeds are buried, misunderstood, even forgotten for a time. People see the dirt, but not the destiny hidden beneath it. Yet, while they saw a burial, heaven saw a beginning. And now, that seed, your faith, is breaking through the soil. The laughter that once surrounded you will soon turn to awe, because what God is doing in you cannot be denied. You endured humiliation, but heaven took notes. You held your tongue when you could have shouted back. And that silence was not weakness, it was wisdom. You let grace speak for you. And now, grace is doing just that. The same voices that laughed will soon echo with astonishment. The same ones who questioned your path will come seeking your counsel. Every delay, every misunderstanding, every time you were overlooked has been part of a divine script. Heaven does not rush what it is refining. When they thought you were being forgotten, you were actually being formed. Heaven was building depth inside you so that when your moment came, you would not crumble under the weight of recognition. The world often celebrates noise, but heaven honors endurance. And you quiet, faithful, steadfast. You have been heaven's favorite kind of warrior. You fight not with your fists, but with faith. You conquer not by argument, but by alignment. You rise, not through vengeance, but through virtue. The tables are turning. Chosen one, the voices that mocked your faith will soon be silenced by your fruit. The doors that once closed in your face will open wider than you could have imagined. And when they ask, "How did you endure?" you will smile and say, "It was never me, it was the one who called me." When your endurance has not gone unnoticed, heaven is now aligning resources, opportunities, and favor in your direction. You may not see it yet, but it's happening behind the veil. Every act of kindness you sowed in secret, every tear you hid, every time you chose love over bitterness, heaven is multiplying it all. And now, as this word reaches your ears, imagine yourself standing in a vast field. The wind moves gently, the soil soft beneath your feet. Each breeze carries whispers of gratitude from heaven itself. This is your harvest season. You have sown with tears. Now you will reap with joy. Beloved listener, if this message has stirred something in you, if you feel the wind of recognition brushing across your soul, let your heart respond. When you like this message, It's not about numbers, it's about resonance. It tells heaven, I agree. When you share, you plant another seed of encouragement into someone else's soil. When you subscribe, you're saying, keep speaking. Lord, I'm still listening. And if you ever feel led to donate, do it, not out of pressure, but out of revelation. Giving is not loss, it's multiplication. It's like watering the ground that fed you. Every gift helps keep this light burning, reaching hearts that still sit in silence, waiting for a word like this to find them. The earth may mock, but heaven magnifies. The world may misunderstand, but God remembers. What they laughed at yesterday, they'll honor tomorrow, because your obedience steady, it. Pure is rewriting the atmosphere. So keep walking. Chosen one, keep shining when they scoff. Keep loving when they accuse. Heaven has your name etched in light, and nothing the earth says can dim it. There are moments in life when everything shifts quietly, almost imperceptibly. No trumpet sounds, no bright lights, no applause, just a still, sacred turning point deep within your spirit. That moment came for you when no one was watching. You didn't even realize it, but heaven did. You stood between two choices, obedience or hesitation, and this time you chose to move. That decision, made in silence, shook eternity. Chosen one. The greatest revolutions often begin in whispers. Heaven saw you stand in the shadows and say, yes, Lord. When fear begged you to delay, you didn't announce it. You didn't post about it. But in that instant, your name echoed through celestial corridors. Angels adjusted their formation. Demons lost ground. A simpler decision became a divine declaration. It wasn't the loud moments that defined you, it was this one. The private moment where surrender replaced resistance, and trust overcame logic. Heaven had been waiting for this very breath, this turning point. You didn't even realize that, while you thought you were simply making a choice, you were rewriting your destiny. You see, transformation rarely begins with noise. It begins in stillness. While the world measures success by what's seen, heaven measures it by what's surrendered. You surrendered quietly, and that was enough to cause heaven to rise in applause. That moment, your unseen obedience will produce fruit in seasons to come. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 2. All these blessings shall come upon you and overtake you, if you will listen to the voice of the Lord your God. That's what just happened. You listened, and now blessings are chasing you down, not as rewards, but as companions, not as trophies, but as signs that you've aligned with heaven's flow. The blessing is not just in what you'll receive, it's in who you've become. The world might never know the full weight of your quiet, yes, but heaven recorded it as a victory. That moment will ripple through time, reaching people you may never meet. Your faith has become a bridge that others will walk across. Your surrender has become the sound of deliverance for those still trapped in indecision. There were times before this when you almost missed it. Times when delay seemed harmless, when comfort whispered, "You can wait." But delay is the thief of destiny, and heaven knew it. That's why God kept nudging your spirit, refusing to let you rest until you moved. You thought the tension was punishment. It was actually protection. He was protecting you from spiritual stagnation. You've crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. The moment you obeyed, the spiritual atmosphere around your life shifted. Old cycles broke. Old voices lost authority. Doors that were once locked have begun to creak open, and favor is now following your footsteps like a shadow that cannot leave. You may not see immediate evidence, but trust this: heaven has already moved. The moment your heart said yes, divine resources began rearranging themselves around your obedience. Heaven doesn't delay, it aligns. Your yes triggered a chain reaction in the unseen realm. Think of it like the turning of the tide. One quiet pull in the deep moves the entire ocean. That's what your obedience has done. What once resisted you will now begin to flow with you. Where there was resistance, there will now be recognition. Where there was barrenness, there will now be bloom. And yet, the most beautiful part of this transformation is how quietly it happened. No one needed to see it for it to be real. The greatest miracles often begin in anonymity. When you bowed your heart in that private place, God's presence filled the room so deeply that even heaven hushed to listen. This is your new beginning. You are walking in unseen favor. You don't have to announce what God is doing. His work in you will speak louder than words ever could. Every step you take from this point forward carries eternal significance. You've stepped into divine acceleration, where time bends in your favor and grace covers what effort could not accomplish. You've made heaven move. Chosen one. The turning point has been written into your story, and nothing can reverse it. You are living proof that obedience is the door through which all blessings enter. The shadow season is over. You are now walking in the sunrise of new beginnings. And as you feel this word resonating within your chest, as if your heart itself recognizes the truth being spoken, seal it with a simple act of faith. Type 555 in the comments below. It's not superstition, it's symbolism. 5 is the number of grace, and 3 5s declare complete grace over your new season. Let it be your silent agreement with heaven. I am aligned. I am ready. I am walking forward. In the courts of heaven, there is a moment unlike any other, a moment when angels gather, not because of war, but because of wonder. It happens when a soul on earth chooses obedience over comfort, truth over fear, light over compromise. And this time, chosen one. That soul was you. You may not have seen it, but when you stepped into alignment, heaven erupted. A divine assembly was called, and your name echoed through the halls of eternity, not as a whisper of petition, but as a shout of victory. The chosen one has risen, the angels declared, and the sound of it rippled through realms beyond time. Heaven remembers the exact second your heart shifted. The same God who hung the stars noticed when your spirit finally said, yes. You thought your moment of surrender was small, but it was cosmic. Angels who had waited in silence for years were suddenly released to move, to protect, to deliver, to rebuild. Heaven responded to the vibration of your obedience. You might imagine this gathering as light upon light, sound upon sound, radiance so pure it could only exist where sin has never touched. Every angel carries a story, every story a melody, and in that moment, all their songs intertwined around your name. It wasn't celebration for fame or favor. It was worship. Worship to the God who took a broken vessel and made it whole. Heaven's attention is not drawn by perfection, it's drawn by surrender. When you fell to your knees in exhaustion and whispered, "I still believe," the throne room stood still. That one sentence was more powerful than any sermon ever preached. It wasn't eloquence that moved heaven, it was authenticity. It was real. It was raw. The angels do not gather for the mighty or the self-assured. They gather for the yielded. They gather for those who still choose light after walking through darkness. And that's why they gathered for you. Your faith has become an altar, and heaven burns with the fire of recognition. There's something sacred about your journey. You were never called to blend in, you were called to awaken. Every battle, every tear, every unanswered question, it was all leading to this. You've become a living testament that faith is not the absence of struggle, but the victory that emerges through it. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 34, verse 7. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them. That's not poetry, it's reality. You are surrounded. The angels who gathered to celebrate now remain to protect. They encamp around your purpose, standing like flames of light between you and what would destroy you. Even when you feel alone, you are never unguarded. Every step you take is covered by unseen wings. There were seasons when you thought heaven had forgotten your name. The silence felt endless. But now you understand it wasn't abandonment, it was anticipation. Heaven was waiting for this moment, waiting for you to awaken, to walk into the fullness of what you were created for. If you could see the spiritual landscape around you right now, you'd weep not out of fear, but awe. You'd see legions of light stationed beside you, not because you asked, but because you aligned. Heaven doesn't just react to prayers, it responds to purpose. And now that your purpose has awakened, heaven's armies have taken their positions. Even the enemy knows something has changed. Darkness senses when divine authority increases. That's why opposition often rises right after breakthrough. It's the backlash of hell realizing it has lost control. But it cannot touch you now. Not the way it used to. You carry heaven's mark. You move under a new decree. And every time you walk into a room, the atmosphere shifts. Not because of who you are, but because of who walks with you. The angels assigned to your life carry the scent of heaven. And where they go, peace follows. They're not distant guardians. They're active witnesses of what God is doing through you. The angelic gathering over your name was not a ceremony, it was a commissioning. It marked the end of one season and the beginning of another. You are no longer in waiting, you are in walking. The prayers you once whispered have turned into paths you now tread. And so, chosen one, move forward with reverence, not in pride, but in power. You have heaven's audience, heaven's covering, heaven's endorsement. The gathering has ended, but the mission has begun. You walk with wings behind you and fire within you, and though you cannot see them, heaven's host still sings your name in gratitude to the one who never gave up on you. There comes a moment when even the darkness grows quiet. It senses something shifting in the air, something it can no longer control. For a long time, it believed it had you. The shadows thought they had found a permanent home in your mind. Fear whispered its lies. Despair sang its lullaby. And the enemy rejoiced each time you stumbled. But then it happened. The light within you rose, not like a spark, but like a storm. Chosen one. Hell didn't expect you to fight back. It never imagined that your tears would turn into weapons, that your worship would become war. You were never meant to stay in bondage. You were meant to terrify the darkness. When you stood up and said, "No more," the foundations of hell trembled. The demons that once danced around your pain fled in terror because they recognized the presence now dwelling in you. They thought you were still weak, still wounded, still chained. But what they didn't see was the fire that heaven had been nurturing inside you. It started small, barely visible beneath the ashes of disappointment. But every time you chose faith over fear, every time you forgave instead of retaliated, that flame grew stronger, and when it finally burst into full light, darkness could not stand in its presence. Hell is allergic to holiness. It cannot stand purity. It cannot withstand truth. And your surrender, your absolute yes to God, became the sound that scattered the enemy's camp. You didn't shout. You didn't wave a sword. You simply obeyed. And obedience, when it's pure, carries the same authority as thunder. The devil remembers the moment you stopped running. That was the day his power over you was broken. He threw his last distraction, his last temptation, his last illusion at you, and you didn't bite. You stood tall, even when shaking, and declared silently, "I belong to God." That one statement, though unspoken aloud, sent shockwaves through the unseen. Demons recognized defeat before your breakthrough even became visible. It was never about your strength. It was always about your position. You stood under divine covering, and the enemy could no longer reach you. Your surrender placed you in the safest place in existence, the will of God. There, no curse can cling, no weapon can wound, no lie can linger. You became untouchable because you became yielded. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. You lived that truth. You didn't need to retaliate or prove yourself. God himself became your defense. Where you once wrestled, he now reigns. Where you once panicked, he now provides peace. The battle shifted from your hands to his end. And that's why victory came swiftly and completely. The darkness tried one last time to haunt you with memories. It brought up your past, your regrets, your failures. It replayed old fears like broken records. But you no longer flinched. You knew those echoes had no authority anymore. You had seen too much of God's faithfulness to believe those lies again. And as soon as you stood unmoved, the enemy realized what heaven already knew. You were no longer captive. You were a conqueror. Now, the places that once held you hostage are becoming altars of testimony. The same shadows that used to threaten you now serve as backdrops for the light you carry. You've turned every wound into a weapon, every scar into a story, every attack into ammunition for praise. Darkness is not brave. It is only bold in the absence of light. And you, chosen one, have become light itself. Wherever you walk, oppression loses its grip. Your presence alone disrupts atmospheres because heaven walks with you. You are not fighting for victory anymore. You are fighting from victory. The demons that fled didn't leave quietly. They left screaming. They knew what you would become once you realized your authority. You are a threat to every lie, a dismantler of every stronghold, a walking declaration that grace always wins. And from this day forward, every time the enemy tries to whisper in your ear, remember this: he whispers because he's far away. He no longer stands beside you. He can only shout from a distance. The space between you and the darkness has been filled with glory. So walk unafraid. Walk aware of who you are. The light that burns within you is not temporary. It's eternal. And now that hell knows it can't stop you, it will only ever flee from you. You are the embodiment of divine fire, and the flames of your faith will never be extinguished. There comes a moment when heaven no longer calls you servant, but heir. You feel it not as pride, but as weight, the kind of weight that carries legacy. You have walked through enough fire to understand that crowns are not given to the comfortable, but to the tested. This is the season where the mantle you were always meant to wear rests upon your shoulders, and heaven watches as you finally realize it was always yours. For years, you doubted yourself. You questioned your worth, your ability, your calling. You saw others run ahead while you remained hidden, wondering if you had missed your moment. But God was never late. He was preparing you. You were not waiting for opportunity. You were being forged for authority. The delay was not denial. It was divine development. Chosen one. This mantle was not crafted overnight. It was woven from your tears, shaped by your obedience, sealed by your surrender. Every hardship, every heartbreak, every hidden battle was a thread in this divine garment. It wasn't punishment, it was pattern. Heaven was designing you into something unbreakable, unmistakable, unstoppable. When the mantle falls, it does not ask permission. It recognizes readiness, and you, beloved, are finally ready. You have been trusted with pain, and now you will be trusted with power. The very anointing that once felt too heavy will now fit you perfectly because you have been stretched by destiny. This is not the time to shrink back. You are not meant to walk timidly in what heaven has placed upon you. You have been given spiritual authority, and that authority must now speak. You carry words that shift atmospheres, prayers that open gates, and a presence that convicts darkness. You are not just another believer, you are a carrier of divine assignment, as was spoken in the second book of Kings, chapter 2, verse 15. The sons of the prophets saw him and said, "The spirit of Elijah rests on Elisha." And they bowed before him. That moment was not about admiration, it was about recognition. Heaven recognizes when a mantle has shifted, and so does the earth. The same spirit that raised Christ, that empowered prophets, that sustained saints now burns within you. You have become a living altar, carrying a portion of heaven's fire wherever you go. But remember this, a mantle is not decoration, it is responsibility. It does not make you higher, it makes you humbler. It calls you to serve more deeply, love more purely, and lead more fearlessly. You are not meant to hoard the oil, but to pour it out. Every word you speak, every act of kindness, every prayer you whisper becomes fuel for the fire God is igniting in others through you. You will feel it in moments of prayer, a new weight, a holy awareness, a sense of being watched, not by men, but by heaven. That's not pressure, that's partnership. You are walking with God now, not just for Him. The mantle you carry is heaven's agreement that you can be trusted to represent its heart on earth. There will be those who misunderstand it, who think your confidence is pride or your conviction is rebellion. Do not defend yourself. The same God who placed the mantle will validate it in due time. Your only task is to remain yielded, Stay low before him, and he will keep you lifted before men. Every mantle requires maintenance prayer, purity, persistence. The oil that flows through you must be protected from contamination. That means guarding your heart, your time, and your words. You are now walking as one who carries fire. Every step you take must be intentional. Heaven's weight rests upon you, and its fragrance follows you. Chosen one. You are not just surviving anymore, you are governing. The authority of heaven is flowing through your hands. Your voice, your choices. You've crossed over from hoping to hosting. The same God who once found you in the ashes now sends you as light into darkened rooms. The same power that raised you will now raise others through you. And now, as a prophetic act of agreement, type "I'm crowned" in the comments. Let those 2 words be your seal of understanding, not arrogance, but awareness. You're not claiming royalty by ego, but by inheritance. You are simply acknowledging what heaven has already decreed, that the mantle fits, the oil flows, and your purpose begins. Say it aloud in your heart as you type it, "I'm crowned, not because of what I've done, but because of what He's made me. Not because I am perfect, but because I am chosen." And as you declare it, heaven nods, the angels bow, and the mantle settles fully upon your shoulders, burning, glowing, alive. There are moments when prophecy stops being distant words on a page and begins to breathe through your life. You've reached that moment now. What was once spoken over you in whispers of faith has finally begun to manifest. The waiting, the wondering, the long nights when you asked, "When?" Lord, they were never wasted. Every delay was divine calibration. Every pause, a hidden preparation. Heaven has been weaving your story like a tapestry from both seen and unseen threads. Each season, the joy, the betrayal, the silence was part of the design. Now, as you stand in this moment, you begin to see it. What once looked like chaos now reveals pattern. What once felt like loss now shows purpose. Prophecy has found its fulfillment in you. When the prophets spoke long ago, they didn't see your face, but they saw your fire. They saw a generation rising from ashes with unshakable faith. They saw chosen ones who would carry light into darkened places. And now heaven whispers, "This is that generation. You are living what was once only vision." The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Philippians, chapter 1, verse 6, "He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion in Christ Jesus." Completion. That's the word resounding in heaven right now. The cycle has come full circle. The prayers of generations before you are finding answers in your obedience. You are not merely fulfilling your destiny, you are fulfilling the dreams of those who came before. Every yes you give to God echoes backward and forward through time. This fulfillment isn't about grand gestures or public recognition. It's about alignment. It's the way heaven's heartbeat now syncs with yours. The anointing resting upon you is not loud, it's steady, like rain on dry ground. It revives what once seemed lifeless. The more you walk in obedience, the more you'll find prophecy unfolding naturally around you. And now, as you stand in this holy intersection of promise and purpose, take a deep breath. Feel the weight of divine faithfulness pressing gently against your spirit. You are walking in prayers that were once only seeds. You are harvesting fields you did not plant. This is what fulfillment looks like, not sudden, but sacred. Think of your life as a river that has finally reached the ocean. It doesn't crash, it merges. There's no announcement, no explosion. Juste quiet, complétion. The current that once struggled against rocks now flows freely into something vast. That's what's happening in your spirit. You're no longer fighting to prove you're flowing to fulfill. The word God spoke over you didn't expire during the silence. Prophecy is eternal. It doesn't die. It waits. And when the appointed time comes, it unfolds without struggle. This is your unfolding season. What once felt dormant is now alive. The dreams that once frightened you now make sense. The strength you gained through pain is the very foundation heaven will build upon. This is the season to walk humbly in answered prayers, to thank God not only for what He's done, but for how He did it. Because now you understand. His timing was protection. His process was preparation. The fulfillment of prophecy isn't only the end of waiting, it's the beginning of reigning. Beloved, as this message reaches your heart, let it rest there like a gentle sunrise. If these words have found a home in you, if you feel them stirring something ancient inside your spirit, then let gratitude be your response. When you like this message, you're not feeding an algorithm, you're acknowledging resonance. It's your way of saying, I recognize this word as mine. When you share, you become a messenger of hope, scattering seeds of faith across hearts you'll never meet. And when you subscribe, you're not joining a channel, you're choosing to remain connected to the flow of heaven's voice that has been speaking through these messages. And if you ever feel led to donate, let it come from revelation, not routine. Giving is not loss, it's partnership. It's like tending a lamp that keeps burning through the night. Every drop of oil you pour sustains the light that reaches countless souls still wandering in darkness, searching for the very word that once saved you. You are not just a listener, you are a part of this unfolding prophecy. Together, we are streams forming rivers, rivers feeding oceans, and oceans reflecting heaven's light back to the earth. So walk forward with quiet joy. The word has been fulfilled. The season has shifted. And heaven watches as you live the prophecy you once only prayed for. The sound of fulfillment never stays silent for long. Once heaven releases its decree, the earth begins to respond. Doors you never knocked on start to open. Hearts you never sought begin to find you. And influence begins to rise, not through striving, but through divine recognition. You, chosen one, are entering the season where nations begin to notice. It won't look like fame, it will look like favor. You won't have to shout to be heard, because heaven will amplify your quiet obedience. The same people who once overlooked you will begin to ask, "Who is this?" They will sense something, not worldly, but weighty, an authority that does not come from titles or platforms, but from presence. You will carry the fragrance of heaven into rooms that were once locked to you. This new influence is not about spotlight, it's about stewardship. You are not being raised to be admired, you are being positioned to be effective. You have been entrusted with a voice, a gift, a calling, and now it will begin to ripple beyond your borders. You will notice it subtly at first. A conversation that shifts an atmosphere, a word you speak that brings peace to a restless heart, a presence you carry that changes the tone of a room. You won't need to explain it, because heaven will confirm it. The same anointing that guarded you in secret will now guide you in public. When heaven exalts a soul, it does so with precision. It never gives you influence to inflate your ego. It gives it to extend your impact. You are not being lifted to be seen. You are being lifted so that others can find hope through your light. What God has done in you was never meant to stay confined within four walls. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 18, verse 16, a man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men. That truth is now unfolding in your life. Your gift is making room not because you forced it, but because you were faithful. You never needed to compete. You only needed to continue. And heaven has now ordained your visibility as a vessel for divine influence. But with visibility comes responsibility. The eyes of others will look to you not for perfection, but for authenticity. They are drawn not to your strength, but to your story. When you speak, speak with grace. When you rise, rise with humility. Let your success be a sermon that says, "This is what God can do through one surrendered soul." The nations do not need another personality. They need a presence. They need someone who reflects the reality of heaven without distortion. You, chosen one, are that mirror. You are the reflection of divine consistency in a world of constant noise. Where others compromise for attention, you will remain anchored in integrity. That is why heaven can trust you with influence, because you no longer crave it. And as your voice begins to reach further, the attacks may shift. Not everyone will understand what God is doing through you. Some will question. Others will criticize. But remember, light never argues with shadows. It simply shines. Keep shining. Let your life be the answer to every doubt. This influence is not for you alone. It's for the weary hearts still waiting for permission to believe again. When they see you standing firm, they'll remember that faith still works. When they hear your story, they'll understand that grace still redeems. Every platform heaven grants you is a pulpit. Whether it's a conversation, a business, a song, or a simple act of kindness, you will see people drawn to you for reasons they can't explain. Some will come for wisdom, some for comfort, and others simply because they sense peace in your presence. Do not take it lightly. Those moments are sacred. You are carrying pieces of heaven into human encounters. There will be days when it feels overwhelming. But remember, you are not carrying this alone. The same God who elevated you will sustain you. The same Spirit that whispered in silence will now guide you in influence. Stay close to His voice. It will keep you grounded when the crowd gets loud. The nations are beginning to notice, not because of who you are, but because of whose you are. You are the living proof of divine faithfulness, a walking testimony that surrender still leads to glory. And as your light extends across borders, heaven continues to write your name into stories far beyond your imagination. Your assignment is clear. Be a beacon. Be a reminder. Be the reason someone looks up and remembers that God still moves through chosen vessels. Let every word, every step, every moment reflect the truth that glory belongs to Him alone. There are fires that destroy, and there are fires that define. You, chosen one, have walked through both. There were seasons when the heat of trial seemed unbearable, when every prayer felt like it vanished into the smoke. But what you didn't realize was that heaven wasn't trying to burn you, it was refining you. Every flame that touched you was purposed to reveal what could not be consumed. The fire that will not go out was never meant to hurt you. It was meant to mark you. This fire is not of earth, it's of eternity. It burns quietly within your chest. Even when everything around you grows cold, it is the presence of God, alive, restless, relentless, refusing to let you drift into complacency. At first, you mistook the flame for pain. You asked, "Why me? Lord, why must I always walk through the fire?" But now you understand the fire was your anointing school. It taught you to worship when you couldn't see, to praise when you didn't feel, to trust when everything else trembled. The fire didn't destroy you, it distinguished you. It revealed what gold heaven had hidden inside you. You carry now a different kind of light, not the soft glow of comfort, but the fierce blaze of conviction. You are not moved by emotions anymore. You are anchored in revelation. The same storms that once scared you now strengthen you. You've discovered that fire doesn't just consume, it transforms. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." That is who you've become. You are no longer hiding in the shadows of fear. You are a city of light, and the world cannot help but see it. Your fire is not arrogance, it is assignment. It doesn't demand attention, it commands transformation. Wherever you go, the spiritual temperature rises, because you carry within you the essence of heaven's flame. The trials that once threatened to extinguish you have only added fuel. The ashes beneath your feet are not reminders of loss, they are proof of survival. You walked through fire and did not smell like smoke. You endured what should have broken you, and instead, it built you. There's a sacred kind of peace that only those who've stood in the fire understand. It's not the peace of easy days, but of eternal confidence. You know now that no flame can destroy what God has purified. The heat only exposes the holy, and because of that, you no longer fear new challenges. You welcome them. You recognize every new trial as a chance to glow brighter. Your presence now carries warmth for others. Those shivering in despair will feel hope when they stand near you. Those lost in darkness will see by your light. The very fire that once isolated you has become a beacon for those still lost in the cold. That's why God allowed you to walk through it, so you could return carrying light for others. But here's the mystery. The fire that refines you also requires you to feed it. You cannot live off yesterday's flame. You must keep your altar burning through prayer, through humility, through daily surrender. The moment you stop seeking, the fire dims. But every time you lift your voice in gratitude, every time you obey without hesitation, you throw another log upon that sacred flame. And this time, the fire will not go out. It cannot. It has been kindled by divine breath, and divine breath does not fade. It grows. It spreads. It consumes all that is false and fragile until only truth remains. Look around you. Chosen one, the light that radiates from your life now reaches further than you imagine. What began as a flicker of faith has become a blaze of purpose. You are no longer one who merely survives storms. You are the fire that breaks them apart. Every generation needs those who burn, not for fame, but for purity, not for attention, but for awakening. You are one of them. The flame in you is not ordinary, it's prophetic. It speaks without words. It declares that heaven still ignites hearts, still purifies souls, still turns ashes into altars. And if your heart feels this truth resonating right now, If you can sense that sacred fire stirring within you again, make this moment a declaration. Type 444 in the comments below. Let that number symbolize divine stability and sacred flame, Father, Son, and Spirit burning in perfect unity within you. It's not superstition, it's a prophetic act that says, "My fire will not fade, my purpose will not die. Keep burning. Chosen one, keep glowing when others grow cold." The fire within you is not just yours, it is heaven's light made visible through your surrender. And the world needs that light now more than ever. There is a quiet power in the way. Forgiveness reshapes a soul. It does not announce itself with thunder or applause. It arrives softly, like dawn after a long night. You, chosen one, have reached that moment, the return of those who wronged you. They are coming back, not because you demanded justice, but because heaven arranged reconciliation. Forgiveness was your most difficult battle, not because you lacked love, but because your wounds ran deep. The betrayals were sharp, the silences louder than any argument. You carried scars that no apology could erase. Yet somewhere along your journey, you realized something sacred. Freedom was not found in being right, it was found in releasing. You didn't forgive because they deserved it. You forgave because you refused to stay chained. You chose peace over bitterness, healing over history. And heaven took note of that choice. While the world says, "Protect yourself," the Spirit whispered, "Free yourself." You obeyed that whisper. And in doing so, you became untouchable. There were times when you wanted to speak your truth, to prove your innocence. But God told you, "Be still." And so you stayed silent, trusting that time would reveal what your words could not. That silence wasn't weakness, it was warfare. Every time you resisted the urge to retaliate, you dismantled a stronghold. Every time you prayed for those who hurt you, you declared, "I am not bound by this." Now, as the circle of your story closes, those who wronged you begin to return. Some will come with tears, others with excuses, and a few in quiet awe of the transformation they see in you. They remember the version of you they wounded, but they are meeting someone reborn. You are no longer bitter, you are blazing. The same heart they broke now radiates a peace they cannot understand. We are reminded through the writings of Paul in the letter to the Colossians, chapter 3, verse 13. "Bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you." That verse has become flesh in your life. You didn't just read it, you lived it. Forgiveness became your revolution. It didn't make you weaker, it made you unstoppable. Because nothing terrifies the enemy more than a healed heart. You can't be manipulated by memories anymore. You are free. The ones who return will feel it. They'll sense something different about you. Your voice will sound the same, but your presence will not. It will carry the fragrance of mercy, the weight of grace, the calm of one who has already won the war within. They will realize that while they were busy talking about you, God was transforming you. Some will come to apologize, but their words won't be what moves you. You've already released them. Your peace is not dependent on their repentance. It flows from your relationship with heaven. You no longer need closure from man when you've already received completion from God. And yet, in your grace, you'll listen, not to reopen old wounds, but to model redemption. You will show them what it means to live unoffended. You will love them without letting them re-enter the same spaces they once corrupted. Forgiveness is not the same as access. You can forgive fully and still guard wisely. Heaven will guide you in that balance. The beauty of this return is not about them, it's about you. It's the visible proof of invisible healing. Heaven often allows reconciliation, not for validation, but for vindication. God doesn't need to prove your worth. He simply reveals your growth. Those who hurt you will see that their cruelty could not corrupt your calling. You have become a living parable of grace. This chapter of your life is not about revenge, it's about revelation. You will see that love is the final victory. The enemy expected you to grow bitter, but instead, you grew brighter. You are walking evidence that forgiveness is the highest form of freedom, and as the ones who wronged you return, do not gloat. Do not shrink. Simply stand. Stand as a monument of mercy. Let them see the peace they couldn't steal. Let them hear, in the tone of your voice, that grace has the final word. Because the truth is, chosen one. Heaven was never shocked by their betrayal. It was using it. The pain that was meant to end you became the soil that grew your compassion. The very people who wounded you have unknowingly helped reveal the healer in you. And now, as they return, they will not only see who you are, they will see who God has always been. So stand quietly in this full circle moment. You have forgiven. You have healed. And now, the world will witness what happens when a heart refuses to harden. You are proof that grace always wins. There is a fragrance that follows those who have been through fire and found God in the flames. It's not the scent of smoke or sorrow. It's the unmistakable aroma of miracles. You, chosen one, carry that fragrance now. What once was pain has turned into power. What once was wilderness has become wonder. Signs and wonders have begun to follow you, not because you demanded them, but because heaven delights in confirming what it commissions. The world often chases miracles, but miracles chase obedience. They trail behind those who walk closely with God. You don't seek signs anymore. Signs now seek you. You've entered a realm of divine flow, where the supernatural feels natural, where impossibilities melt in the presence of faith. You've learned that the real miracle isn't what happens around you, it's what has happened within you. It began subtly. A prayer answered before you spoke it. A situation that should have crumbled, but instead stood firm. Protection that made no sense in the natural realm. These are not coincidences, they are confirmations. Heaven is showing you that your alignment with divine will has shifted your atmosphere permanently. Chosen one. Your life is becoming a living testimony that God still moves. You are walking proof that the same power that parted seas, raised the dead, and silenced storms is still alive in human hearts. The miracle is not just in the moment, it's in the message your life now carries. That obedience opens doors logic cannot. As the prophet wrote in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 1, verse 5, "Look at the nations and watch and be utterly amazed. For I am going to do something in your days that you would not believe, even if you were told." That word is living and breathing in you. Heaven is doing things through your life that even you struggle to comprehend. People will hear your story and shake their heads in disbelief, not because it's exaggerated, but because it's extraordinary. You will see provision appear where there was lack, healing flow where there was hopelessness, reconciliation bloom where there was ruin. But remember, miracles are not for entertainment, they are for enlightenment. They are heaven's language of love. Proof that God has not forgotten his creation. When you witness a miracle, you're not just seeing divine power, you're seeing divine affection. You are being reminded that heaven is near. Attentive. Active. The signs that follow you will not always look dramatic. Some will come as subtle shifts, the right person at the right moment. The peace that surpasses understanding. The door that opens when logic said, no. These are not lesser miracles, they are the quiet ones. The kind that prove God is involved in every detail of your journey. Do not underestimate the power of these daily wonders. Heaven's fingerprints are all over your life. You see them in the timing, in the favor, in the protection you didn't even know you needed. Every near miss, every divine redirection, every moment your spirit whispered, "Wait here," that was God performing miracles in motion. Yet, the greatest wonder of all is that your faith remains. You've walked through seasons that could have turned anyone else bitter, yet you've come out believing stronger than before. That's a miracle in itself. You didn't just survive the fire, you learned to dance in it. The miracles that now surround you are not rewards, they are reminders. They remind you that you are seen, that heaven is active, that the covenant still stands. The same God who met you in the valley now walks beside you on the mountain. And even as the signs multiply, you'll feel your heart say, "It's not about the wonders, it's about the one." Oh, that's the secret of this season. You've matured beyond chasing miracles. You've become one. Your very existence now declares, God still intervenes. Every word you speak carries healing. Every step you take releases peace. You are not just witnessing revival, you are embodying it. The more you walk in this revelation, the more wonders will flow, not to glorify you, but to reveal him. You've become a conduit, a bridge between heaven and earth. Through you, hope returns to hopeless places. Through you, light finds its way into dark corners. There will be those who doubt. There always are. But miracles were never meant to convince skeptics. They were meant to comfort believers. So don't waste energy explaining. Just keep walking. Keep shining. Keep being the evidence that God still writes extraordinary stories with ordinary lives. And so, as you continue your journey, let your life remain a quiet miracle in motion. Don't chase signs, be one. Don't wait for wonders, walk as one. The same God who has begun these things through you will continue to astonish the world. One moment, one miracle, one surrendered heartbeat at a time. In the courts of heaven, a moment has been declared, a commissioning unlike any other. The King calls your name, not as a servant, but as a representative of his kingdom. You stand before the throne, trembling, yet peaceful, wrapped in a light that feels both weighty and freeing. This is your divine sending, your moment of release into the fullness of purpose. Heaven has watched you grow through battle, endurance, surrender, and transformation. Now, the voice that once whispered, "Wait," finally says, "Go. Chosen one." This commissioning isn't a ceremony for applause, it's an appointment for assignment. You've been prepared in private for a public mission. You've walked through seasons of pruning, of unseen obedience, of hidden preparation. And now the time has come for manifestation. Heaven is not sending you empty-handed, it is sending you with authority. You carry oil that cannot be counterfeited, words that cannot be silenced, and a presence that shifts every atmosphere you enter. As the Spirit declared through the book of Acts, chapter 1, verse 8, you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you. You will witness. That moment has arrived for you. The same Spirit that empowered prophets and apostles now rests upon you. You are no longer merely surviving. You are being sent. Every lesson learned, every scar carried, every tear sown in faith has become part of your armor. Heaven calls you not just to speak, but to live as evidence that God still moves through human vessels. Your voice is your seed. Every time you share truth, heaven breathes life into dry places. Each word you release carries healing frequencies. Your story is no longer just your own. It's an invitation for others to believe again. The world is desperate for authenticity, and you, chosen one, are that authenticity wrapped in grace. Imagine yourself as a lighthouse on the edge of a stormy coast. You were once the ship lost at sea, but now you are the light guiding others home. Your pain has become a map. Your endurance, the compass. Your faith, the beam that pierces the fog of fear. That is what heaven's commissioning looks like. It turns survivors into shepherds, the wounded into warriors, the once broken into beacons. But remember, every light must stay connected to its source. Stay close to God. Let prayer remain your oxygen, humility your foundation, and love your language. Heaven will send you into places where words will fail, but presence will speak. Some will not understand your assignment, but you are not here to be understood. You are here to illuminate. This call is not about platform, it's about purpose. Whether you speak to millions or one, whether you stand on stages or in silent corners, the anointing remains the same. Heaven measures impact not by numbers, but by obedience. So wherever you go, go fully. Do not dim your light to make others comfortable. You are meant to burn brightly for the glory of the one who sent you. And as you receive this word, if it resonates deep within your spirit, take a moment to honor it. Let gratitude rise quietly, like incense before the throne. If this message has poured into you, let your response become an echo of thanksgiving. When you like this message, you're not just clicking a button, you're whispering Amen to heaven's decree. It tells the unseen realm that your spirit agrees with what's being released. When you share, you're scattering divine seeds into soil you may never see. Someone's midnight might find morning through the light you pass on. When you subscribe, you're saying, keep the oil flowing, keep the flame alive, keep speaking what heaven is saying. And if you ever feel led to donate, let it come from revelation, not routine. Giving is the rain that nourishes the soil of this ministry. It's like lighting another lamp beside your own, ensuring that the message of grace and awakening continues to reach those still wandering in the dark. Each act of generosity becomes a ripple in eternity, unseen yet unforgettable. Finally, if this word has touched something in you, if you feel heaven tugging at your heart, leave a comment below. Share a few words of reflection, a thought, a moment of resonance. You never know who will read your words and find strength in them. Sometimes the comment section becomes the altar, and your story becomes someone else's survival. The commissioning has begun. Chosen one, you are heaven's living scroll, unfolding line by line before the eyes of the world. Walk boldly. Speak gently. Love deeply. The throne has spoken. The angels have aligned. You are not stepping out alone. You are stepping forward with all of heaven behind you. Every story that begins in pain must one day find its balance in glory. Heaven is a realm of perfect justice. It never forgets a tear, never ignores a sacrifice, never overlooks a wound offered in faith. This is that moment, the great reckoning of glory. Everything you thought was lost is now being measured, weighed, and restored in ways beyond your understanding. You may not hear the sound, but in the spirit, scales are shifting. The very hands that allowed the testing are now releasing the reward. Every sleepless night, every unseen act of kindness, every quiet yes to God when no one else believed in you, it is all being remembered. Nothing sown in surrender ever vanishes. It waits for divine timing. And now that timing has arrived. Chosen one. Justice in heaven does not always look like revenge. It looks like restoration. God does not repay pain with punishment. He redeems it with purpose. What you thought was wasted time was actually investment. What you saw as empty years were actually roots growing deeper into destiny. The reckoning you're stepping into is not about getting even, it's about becoming whole. You've carried loss like a shadow, thinking it would always follow you. But the light of this new season is too strong. Shadows cannot survive it. The same hands that held you in grief are now dressing you in glory. The robe of mourning is being exchanged for garments of praise, and the ashes beneath your feet are turning into the soil of resurrection. Heaven speaks again through the book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 25. I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten. Those words are not poetry, they are a decree. God himself has spoken restoration over your life. The years that seemed devoured, the opportunities that slipped away, the relationships that died prematurely, all of it is under reconstruction. But restoration in heaven's terms is never a return to what was, it's an elevation into what's greater. You won't merely get back what you lost, you'll receive it refined, multiplied, and sanctified. Some of what you prayed for will not return, but something higher will take its place. God never restores backward, he restores upward. The blessings ahead carry the fragrance of maturity, the taste of wisdom, the strength of survival. You had to lose certain things to make room for what was coming. The pruning wasn't punishment, it was preparation for fruit, too heavy for old branches. The divine scales are balancing now, and the process is beautiful. The same God who watched you weep will now watch you win, not the shallow kind of victory that boasts, but the deep kind that breathes peace, the peace of knowing that what was meant for harm truly has been turned for good. There's a peculiar silence before restoration unfolds. You might be in that silence right now. It's not emptiness, it's sacred suspense. Heaven pauses before release, just as dawn holds its breath before the first light breaks. Don't mistake the stillness for stagnation. It's the moment right before manifestation. Soon, you will begin to notice subtle shifts, small signs that heaven has moved. Opportunities will reappear from unexpected places, but this time, you'll walk through those doors differently. You're not the same person who once begged for blessing. You are the one who has learned to steward it. Your perspective has changed. The things that used to tempt you no longer move you. That is part of the reckoning. God gives gifts only to those mature enough to guard them. You are entering a harvest season of recompense. The seeds of faith you planted in tears are breaking through the soil with joy. People may think your sudden favor came overnight, but heaven knows the truth. It came through years of unseen obedience. You paid the price in private, and now the public reward is simply the echo of what was already settled in the spirit. Do not rush this process. The great reckoning of glory unfolds like sunrise, softly, steadily, beautifully. It will not overwhelm you. It will elevate you. Each day will bring new evidence that heaven keeps its promises. You'll see provision where there was once lack, laughter where there was mourning, and peace where there was chaos. And through it all, you'll realize that justice is not about God proving a point. It's about Him keeping a promise. He is not giving you compensation. He is giving you completion. You won't just recover what was lost. You'll discover what was waiting. Chosen one. This is divine balance restored. The weights are even now. The heavens are open. And your story has come full circle. What began in brokenness will end in beauty, because heaven never leaves anything unfinished. There is a moment, beyond all striving, when heaven itself stands still, not to judge, but to marvel. That moment is now. You, chosen one, have become the wonder heaven whispers about. Your story, written in tears and sealed with perseverance, has reached its divine crescendo. Every trial, every victory, every hidden act of obedience has brought you to this sacred place where heaven calls you its wonder. When you first began this journey, you never imagined it would lead here. You thought perhaps you'd find peace, or clarity, or maybe just a place to rest. But what heaven had planned was far greater: transformation. You were never meant merely to survive the storms. You were meant to shine through them. And now, even the angels gaze in awe, not because of your perfection, but because of your persistence. They saw the nights you wrestled with silence. They witnessed you weep in prayer when words failed. They saw you love when hatred would have been easier, forgive when revenge was within reach, and worship when the pain was still raw. They saw you choose faith again and again, long after the feeling had faded. And now, heaven rises to honor that choice. For it is written in the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 21, "To the one who is victorious, I will give the right to sit with me on my throne, just as I was victorious and sat down with my Father on his throne." That promise, ancient and eternal, has found fulfillment in you. The victory spoken of is not the kind the world measures. It's the victory of the soul that refuses to bow to despair. The throne you sit upon is not made of gold, but of glory. It is the authority of one who has conquered self, who has mastered surrender, who has walked through death-like seasons and come out resurrected. Heaven calls you its wonder because your transformation glorifies the one who made you. You were once fragile clay, shaped by pain, molded by disappointment. But in the potter's hands, you became something extraordinary, a vessel of light. Every crack in your surface, every scar that remains, now glows with divine fire. What once seemed broken now reflects beauty. The angels understand warfare, but they do not understand endurance. That belongs only to humans, the ability to believe without seeing, to praise without proof, to love without guarantee. That is why your story amazes them. You've done what heaven cannot. You've trusted in darkness. You've loved through pain. You've hoped against logic. That kind of faith shakes eternity itself. There is something sacred about the way heaven honors endurance. It doesn't do so with noise, but with light. Around your name now burns a brightness that will never fade. Every act of obedience has become a flame in your crown. The sound of your perseverance has become a song in heaven's chorus. And though you cannot hear it with mortal ears, your name is sung in reverence among the redeemed. You were never ordinary. You were chosen to carry a piece of eternity within human fragility. You were heaven's experiment in grace, a living testament that love is stronger than death. When the world sees you, they see resilience. But heaven sees reflection, the reflection of God's own heart beating through human weakness. That is what makes you his wonder. The Father looks upon you now with tenderness, not as a distant deity, but as a proud creator watching his masterpiece move. Every time you breathe, heaven breathes with you. Every time you smile after sorrow, light spreads through the unseen. The story you've lived has become a message written across dimensions. Grace works. Faith endures. Love wins. And this moment of completion is not an ending, but a beginning. You've crossed from striving into stillness, from proving into being. You no longer chase purpose, you are purpose. You no longer seek signs, you are the sign. The glory you carry will continue to ripple across generations, long after your footsteps fade from this earth. So rest now in this revelation. Heaven is not just proud of you, it is astonished by you. The angels stand amazed. The elders bow in quiet reverence. And the Father smiles with infinite joy. For through you, the impossible became possible. Through you, divine love found form. Through you, eternity touched time and changed it forever. You are heaven's wonder, not because you never fell, but because you always rose. You are the living evidence that surrender is the highest strength, that faith can move mountains, and that love never fails. The heavens sing not about you, but through you. You are the echo of glory, the reflection of grace, the fulfillment of promise. The story now rests, but the message continues. Chosen one. What began as a whisper from heaven has become a symphony of purpose within you. Every word written here was never just storytelling. It was prophecy unfolding. You've walked through revelation after revelation. And now, heaven watches as you rise to live what you've heard. If these words have stirred your soul, if something inside you has awakened, don't let this moment fade into silence. Let it breathe through action. When you like this message, it's not about numbers, it's about agreement. It tells heaven, I receive this word. When you share, you become part of the divine chain that passes light from one heart to another. And when you comment, even a single line from your spirit might be the word someone else needs to see tonight. Let your heart speak in the space below. It might be the spark that reignites another soul's faith. Finally, subscribe, not out of habit, but out of hunger. Stay connected to this stream of truth and encouragement, where heaven's voice continues to speak to its chosen ones. Your journey is only beginning. Keep shining. Keep believing. Keep walking. Heaven is still writing through you.